We are going to continue on the theme, but talk about corporate travel making a comeback. Industry tracker Smith Travel Research found that American luxury hotels sold almost 17% more rooms during the first quarter versus a year ago. Now, that's 3 times the average U.S. hotel sold during the same price. For his perspective on the health of the business, we bring in Laurence Geller. He is a 40-year veteran of the lodging industry. He is the CEO of Strategic Hotels and Resorts. Laurence, glad to have you here on the Inside Track. So have luxury hotel bookings turned the corner? Is the worst over?
I think the worst is clearly over, and they have turned the corner, but we're still 20% off from peak. So you've got a long corner to go.
So before we talk about kind of the long climb back up, what are the things now, the elements now that are making the business better? Is it the return of the business traveler?
Yeah, I mean, the business traveler always leads the return. In this case, the corporate confidence level is very high. The business traveler is hitting the roads pretty hard. International travel in and out is very big. The weakness of the dollar is bringing in money. But most important, I think the real key for a trend-setting metric is that the group bookings, which are booked 6, 9, 12, 15 months out, are coming back very strong.
So this seems to imply that the companies who were worried about bad PR post-credit crisis are willing to send their people for conferences or for meetings to luxury spots. They're not worried anymore about looking wasteful.
There's still an element of the Barney Franco McCarthyism in place amongst a few companies, but generally no. There's a frugality about it, but there isn't a lack of desire. People have to meet, and thank goodness our forward bookings are looking very strong, and I think we're a pretty good indicator of the rest of the market.
Now, you mentioned it's a long climb back up to the boom times. I mean, as far as occupancy rates, what are they standing at now across your properties?
Well, you're in the mid-70s and you're in several $100 rate. But here's the interesting thing this time round. We believe that not only are we below where we were in 2007, but there's no supply this time. So it's in an intellectual, logical sense, you're going to far surpass previous levels of rate and occupancy, or RevPAR, in this cycle, assuming the GDP recovers even at the slow pace it's doing.
And for people who are not in the industry, RevPAR means revenue per available room.
That's right.
Right? Now, are you able, is demand strong enough to actually lift that figure? I hear what you're saying, that there's pent-up demand, but what kinds of statistics are we talking about?
Well, you're talking in plus or minus the 10% range year on year, which is very, very strong. And the good news is that's still only part of occupancy. So you've got this increase while occupancy is going up. When occupancy peaks in the high 70s, mid 70s, you're going to have rates shoot up.
So right now, the average luxury room I was looking is around $250 a night.
Yep.
Now, back in 2007, just to refresh our memory, what was it?
Close to 300.
Okay, so how long till you close the gap?
Oh, in some markets 6 months, in other markets 2 years. Southern California is behind New York, but it just depends. And in some segments, we're already closed the gap and beating it.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool.
Now, you mentioned New York as a hot spot. Which cities are you seeing the most strength in? I'm assuming New York, because you mentioned it as top 3. What other cities? I mean, is it the gateway cities, or is there some other trends?
Gateway cities certainly, coastal cities certainly are seeing the benefit of it. Washington, D.C. has stayed strong and is increasing strong. Government seems to be a growth business, sadly. But you're seeing East Coast, West Coast really being very strong. My hometown, Chicago, has proved to be very resilient and is booming again.
Laurence, thanks so much for the time.